Thanatopsis from Bryant. So Bryant was an interesting character. He was one of the very few first people in this early time who was able to make a living at writing. And mainly because of this poem, Thanatopsis. Once he wrote this, he was set. Now, all of this kind of group of poetry that we're reading right now comes kind of on the heels of William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge wrote a treatise about poetry, and it kind of set the world on fire. So people were trying to sort of responding to that. Bryant himself actually proclaimed that he was trying to invent, perfect, or emulate an American, like the American voice. That's what he was trying to do. What does an American sound like? And we can decide whether he succeeded or not. I say probably not, but nonetheless, this poem set him on his way. He was very, what we'd call liberal today, very liberal person. He did a lot of things in his life. In fact, he had a big part in setting aside that land in New York for Central Park. It's part of his legacy. And let's go ahead and read Thanatopsis. That's on page 116 is where it starts. To him who in the love of nature holds communion with her visible forms, she speaks of various language. For his gayer hours, she has a voice of gladness and a smile and an eloquence of beauty, and she glides into his darker musings with a mild and gentle sympathy that steals away their sharpness ere he is aware. When thoughts of the last bitter hour come like a blight over thy spirit, and sad images of the shroud, and sad images of the stern agony, and shroud, and pall, and breathless darkness, and the narrow house, make thee to shudder and grow sick at heart. Go forth under the open sky and list to nature's teaching, while go forth under the open sky. Oh gosh, sorry about that, guys. Go forth under the open sky and list to nature's teachings, while from all around earth and her waters and the depths of air comes a still voice. Yet a few days, and thee, the all-beholding sun, shall see no more in all his course, nor yet in the cold ground where thy pale form was laid with many tears, nor in the embrace of ocean shall exist thy image. Earth, that nourished thee, shall claim thy growth to be resolved to earth again, and lost each human trace, surrendered up thine individual being, shalt thou go to mix forever with the elements. To be a brother to the insensible rock, and to the sluggish clod which the rude swain turns with his share and treads upon. The oak shall send his roots abroad and pierce thy mold. Yet not to thy eternal resting place shall thou retire alone, nor couldst thou wish couch more magnificent. Thou shalt lie down with patriarchs of the infant world, with kings, the powerful of the earth, the wise, the good, fair forms and hoary seers of ages past, all in one mighty sepulchre. The hills, rock-ribbed and ancient as the sun, the vales stretching in pensive quietness between, the venerable woods, rivers that move in majesty, and the complaining brooks that make the meadows green, and poured round all, old ocean's gray and melancholy waste, are but the solemn decorations all of the great tomb of man. The golden sun, the planets, all the infinite host of heavens are shining in the sad abodes of death. Are shining on the sad abodes of death. Through the still lapse of ages, all that tread the globe are but a handful to the tribes that slumber in its bosom. Take the wings of morning, and the Barcan desert pierce. Through the still lapse of ages, all that tread the globe are but a handful to the tribes that slumber in its bosom. Take the wings of morning, and the Barcan desert pierce, or lose thyself in the continuous woods where rolls the Oregon, and hears no sound saves his own dashings. Yet the dead are there, and millions in those solitudes since first the flight of years began have laid them down in their last sleep. The dead reign there alone. So shalt thou rest. And what if thou shalt fall unnoticed by the living, and no friend take note of thy departure? All that breathe will share thy destiny. The gay will laugh when thou art gone. The solemn brood of care plod on, and each one as before will chase his favorite phantom. Yet all these shall leave their mirth and their employments, and shall come and make their bed with thee. As the long train of ages glides away, the sons of men, the youth in life's green spring, and he who goes the full strength of years, martyrdom and maid, and beauty of its innocent age cut off, shall one by one be gathered to thy side by those who in their turn shall follow them. So live, that when thy summons comes to join the innumerable caravan that moves to the pale realms of shade, where each shall take his chamber in the silent halls of death, thou go not like the quarry slave at night, scourged to his dungeon, but sustained and soothed by an unfaltering trust. Approach thy grave like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dreams. Okay. All right. Wow. Thanatopsis. Okay, so it means seeing death in Latin. So, I mean, let's talk about it. Of all the great themes, of all the things that perplex us as human beings, death has got to be. Oh, if it's not number one, it's surely in the running. I mean, what happens after you die? A lot of people have it all wrapped up, put in a nice box with a bow, and they say, well, if you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell. Other people, Hindus and whatnot, they say, no, it's an eternal cycle of reincarnation. And there's karma and dharma and atman is brahman. And then you have many others who say many other things, but it's perplexing, right? And it informs everything we do on earth. Presumably, people spend their daily hours trying to either get into heaven or stay out of hell, I guess. Other people try to have good karma in this life so that they can, in this crappy life, so that they can have a better life next time. And doesn't that inform what we do? It informs our worldview. It informs our whole grasp on this world, this life, and this universe. If you believe that the soul, if there's a such thing as a soul, first of all, if you believe that a soul enters the body at the time of conception, that changes things for you. I mean, that changes your worldview, doesn't it? And I think if you've ever seen anyone die up close, it's effing horrible. It's terrible. I mean, no words. And if it's one of your parents, it's even worse. And I hate to say it, but you are all headed that way, and I am too. I still have one father remaining. I have my mother, my stepfather. So you see somebody die, and you realize it's not very happy. And just as a total side note, we here in Texas, we're one of the states where you do not have a right to die. If you're in the hospital and you say, I would like to drink the Kool-Aid and end it, they say, no, you must live. They're making way too much money off of you being in the hospital to let you go. And that's just so sad. But in any event, what happens after you die is the great perplexing mystery. And for a lot of us, it really is scary. It really is scary. It's freaking scary. Like, well, I don't know. But well, there's a few options. We discussed some of them. But let's read what Bryant tells us. So he says this. Okay, back up. I'm going to give you a little bit more. First of all, let me give you this. This poem is presented in basically two parts. There are two different voices. The first voice starts with "to him" and ends with "ere he is aware," and that's the voice of the poet. And then when thoughts on line 8, that is the voice of nature. And then nature is speaking is kind of a lower voice. And then nature is speaking until line 73. At the end of that, where it says, by those who in their turn shall follow them. So it's the poet, nature, the poet. I have a theory, and it's not a good one. I hope it's a good theory, but it's not a happy theory. And we probably touched on a little bit about it before, but life in America, I'm just going to say America because it's what I know best. In America, life has gotten sufficiently complicated and hard and difficult. You guys, just when you came in today, gave me, man, I feel it, like I'm part of the problem. I have a paper that you're doing, you have a paper due in my class, but it's not just that. It's lots of different things, many different things, right? And where in the past they had 10 things to deal with, now we have 50, right? I will look at my daughter, and she is like every second of her time is occupied by studying, cross country, doing her chores around here, whatever it is. Like it's just, and she's feeling it. She's having a hard time like fitting in any leisure, any time to breathe. But I think that's what we need more than anything. And I don't know. I can feel it very deeply because I'm going to put my finger on one thing. When I was a kid, when I was a young guy, I lived a boy's life, no doubt. I lived outdoors, and a girl's life, but I'm saying this is what I'd lived. I was outdoors all the time. I mean, we had our bicycles, and our rule, this is in a small town, San Angelo, Texas, and our rule was to be home by dark. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have computers. We didn't have any of that stuff. None of it. And I tell you, it was better. We didn't have the video games we had eventually were like Super Mario Brothers, and oh man, but you just can't play that for 50 hours like you can these new games. Where I'm going with this is an outdoor life is good. An outdoor life gets you closer to nature. And I know that we've spoke about this with romanticism, and some of you said, yeah, I like to go to camp and all camping and everything like that. Even just golfing. I know it's like an artificially natural scene, but hey, when you get outdoors, you'll feel better. It's just a natural elixir for the soul. And I feel like part of our problem in America today is we're always inside, and we're never together. We're together like this, but we're never together where we can look at each other in the eyes and see the mannerisms of each other and all that. And it's really, really, I think, a problem. And COVID turned everything sideways and upside down and inside out 10 more times, right? I used to have maybe 1 or 2 students come to me every class saying, Shanafelt, I'm very anxious. I don't, whatever, Now I have a huge number. So that the anxiety among my students has blossomed. It's increased incredibly. And I think there's a lot of stuff, to point to tell, where that came from. But one of those things is, I think we're not, number one, I don't think we have enough leisure time. Every second of our time is occupied. And number 2, I don't think we have enough outside time. And in Texas, it's hot, right? So I understand that. But so here's what Bryant says to us. To those of you, this is the poet speaking, he says, to him who in the love of nature holds communion with her visible forms. That's like to anyone who goes outside and communicates with nature. She appears to you in various forms. She speaks a various language. She says, for his gayer hours, when he's happy, nature has a voice of gladness. So, oh, hi, good to see you. Yeah, come on in. We're gonna go canoeing today. Yep, come on in. She has a voice of gladness and a smile and an eloquence of beauty. And she glides into his darker musings with a mild and gentle sympathy that steals away their sharpness ere he is aware. I swear to you, if you're depressed, if you feel terrible, especially if it's a pretty day outside, and you go outside and just go walk around Zilker Park, or just go do just anything outdoor, kind of goes, just sit in on the hill there at Barton Springs and just watch people, whatever you want to do. But I swear to you, if you get outside, it helps at least just a little bit. And that's what he's saying. For his darker hours, she has an eloquence of beauty, and she glides into those days with a mild and gentle sympathy and steals away their sharpness before he even knows it. It's like you walk out and say, oh, just a little bit anyway. And then he says, then that's the end of the poets. That's the end of the poet's first kind of voice. Now, notice he said the nature has a voice. Well, here it is. This is nature's voice, and what nature says to us. When thoughts of the last bitter hour come like a blight. So there's a little bit of alliteration there. Bitter, bitter. I mean, how? And somebody hits you in the stomach, or maybe I don't know. Ba. They say barbarians. Ba. They speak bar. So it's not a great sound, right? On the last bitter hour, right? So the last bitter hour, like a blight over thy spirit, and sad images of the stern agony. That's what I'm talking about. The stern agony, it takes a hell of a lot to kill a person. It really does. And it's stern agony. It's the stern agony. It's pretty terrible. And when you think about that stern agony of death, and the shroud is a burial cloth, right? And the pall, this is the coffin, and the breathless darkness. And think about that image right there, the breathless darkness. Think about yourself in your coffin, dead. It's breathless, right? Totally silent. No light at all. You might want to be thinking about how you're buried. There's lots of different ways. You can be cremated, but you can be buried. But when you're buried, as I understand it, if you are embalmed and you're put into a quality casket and then put into the metal concrete liner thing, you'll preserve for just indefinitely. It's pretty scary. I don't know. And then there's a third option where it's, I forgot the name of it, but it's a natural burial where they just put you right into the ground. And they do it in an area where it's a conservation of land so that the people can't build on it. Just put you right into the ground. And that way you decay into the earth. That's how I'd like to be buried. So there's no breathless darkness. You just go back to the earth. And the narrow house, look at the narrow house. That's the coffin, the narrow house. Make thee to shudder and grow sick at heart. So when you think about all that stuff, you're like, oh, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Go forth under the open sky and list to nature's teachings. Go forth under the open sky and list to nature's teachings. While from all around earth and her waters and their still depths comes a still voice. You know what? I screwed up a minute ago. That's the end of the poet's voice. I apologize. That's the end of the poet's voice, because it comes the still voice, and then here's the voice. Boom. Here it is. Yet a few days, and the all beholding sun shall see no more. Okay. There's a lot packed into just that right there, because yet a few days. How many days? How long is a few days to nature? On a geological time scale, it could be eons, right? And on a universal time scale, I mean, they tell me the universe is something like 15 billion years old, and our planet is something like almost 5 billion years old. And a billion is 1,000 million. So 5,000 million years, and a million is 1,000,000. That's a lot of thousands. That's a long time. And just think of your life in relation to that ocean of time. Your life is, say, 100 years. Insignificant on a geological time scale. Just not even worth talking about, right? Yet a few days, and the all beholding sun, the sun. Here it works in a couple of senses. It is the sun, literally the sun, but it could also be some greater power, some deity who sees everything. But let's take it as the sun, the all-beholding sun. The sun sees everything. You can't hide anything from the sun. But in this case, the all-beholding sun shall see no more. That's a paradox. two things that seemingly don't go together, don't coincide and complement each other. But in another way, they do, because the all-beholding sun shall see no more in all his course, yet in the cold ground where thy pale form was laid with many tears, nor in the brace of ocean shall exist thy image. So it's you, thy image of you, that the all-beholding sun shall see no more. Now, from this, you have to think about something. The first law of thermodynamics. Wait, this is literature class? What? Yeah, the first law of thermodynamics says that matter and energy is never created or destroyed. You know, that has revolutionary implications right there. That means that every atom, every particle that is in the universe right now was here when it began. Nothing is created or destroyed. You can't just make something. What happens is through various processes, matter congeals, coagulates into certain forms, and then through entropy, it evaporates into energy. And so just think about your stuff that you're made out of, right? I mean, really, you think it's your body and you think you've owned it forever and it's all yours and it's just you. But every single molecule that's inside your body was here at the beginning of the universe. It was present at the Big Bang. Wow. Well, how did it get to be me? Okay, well, your mom made a tomato, right? Your mom made a tomato, a really good one from the garden out here. It's delicious. And from that tomato, she, through her amazing process, digested that tomato and made your form out of that nourishment. Those molecules, that matter that was in that tomato became you. Your mama did that. Wow. And then after you're born, then you do it. You eat your own. So we literally are the earth. We come from the earth and we are the earth. We occupied this form during this moment, during this little sliver of geological time, but we literally are the earth. We are stuff of the earth. We're mostly water, by the way. Like 98%, I mean, we're big percentage water. And then, so that's how the all-beholding sun will see no more thy image, because when you die, you will return to the earth. Unless you're sitting in your coffin for all eternity. You will return to the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? And you will nourish another creature, maybe. You'll become an oak tree. You'll nourish another creature and then occupy that form for a while. Wow. So we're stardust, because the earth is the leftover remnants when a star was being formed. We're the stuff of stars. We're the stuff of the universe. Pretty cool thought. Earth that nourished thee shall claim thy growth to be resolved to earth again, and lost each human trace, surrendering up thine individual being. So you will no longer be an individual. You will return to the oneness, to the unity of the universe. No longer will you be a person or a thing of yourself. You'll be part of the earth. And then it says, you will go and mix forever with the elements. And I guess if we are as old as the universe is old, then we will also last until the universe ends, and maybe forever. Because if you think of the universe as an expanding and contracting Big Bang, so they say the universe will either end in a freeze, the big freeze, or the big crunch. And if the universe doesn't have enough matter in it, it'll keep flying apart forever and just freeze until it dies. But if it has sufficient matter to gravity to capture it as it's expanding and pull it back in, then it will crunch back into another Big Bang and explode again. So if you think of the universe as a continually forever expanding and contracting in big bangs and big crunches, then we are literally eternal beings. So for those people who think that God is the universe, then God is you. So this prefigures transcendentalism. This is the kind of groundwork of ideas that went into the transcendentalist ideas. And he says, you will be a brother to the insensible rock. So we have personification there. The rock is made to be give human-like qualities. And to the sluggish clod, which the rude swain turns with his share. A rude swain is a country boy. So you'll be the dirt that the country boy turns up with his plowshare. Oh, wow. And then the oak tree shall send his roots abroad and pierce thy mold. So you can imagine that image where the roots of the oak tree are kind of piercing through your body, and you have become sustenance for that oak tree. Beautiful oak tree, right? It's gross and it's not gross at the same time. The worms are there and everything is there, but it's just part of the whole cycle, right? And he says, turns with his share. And then, yet, another shift, yet not to thy eternal resting place shall thou retire alone, nor couldst thou wish couch more magnificent. This is one of the primary images that people love in this poem, the couch. The earth is your couch. It's like you just repose, when you die, you just repose back into the earth. You couldn't wish for a more magnificent couch than that. But you won't go there alone. Many people will go there with you. Thou shalt lie down, and look at all those pronouns. Thou. See, I mean, this is if you're trying to be an American voice, you need to nix the thous, right? Thou shalt lie down with patriarchs of the infant world, with kings, the powerful of the earth, the wise, the good, fair forms, and hoary seers of ages past. So all those people on Facebook you like to look at and hate on because they're so perfect, because their lives are perfect and they just have the perfect kids and the perfect jobs and the perfect car and the perfect whatever, and you just like, oh, I get in trouble for this, but my daughter's always comparing herself to Emilio. What's her last name or first name? Anyway, this pretty girl on Charlie D'Amelio, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But anyway, those people are going to die too, and those people are going to lay down in the earth and become food for worms, just like you. So that gives you comfort. Like the patriarch, the king's going to die. Henry VIII died. The Queen died just the other day. Yeah. Only she will be buried in, I think it was Westminster Abbey, and she's not going to, I don't know, she won't return back to the earth as much. But anyway, thou shalt lie down with patriarchs of the infant world. These are the rulers of the ancient world. They are there, all in one mighty sepulcher. A sepulcher is a tomb. Think of New Orleans, those tombs that are above the ground, and you can kind of walk into a sepulcher. The earth then is our sepulcher, everyone's tomb. The hills, rock-ribbed and ancient as the sun, the vales stretching in pensive quietness between, the venerable woods, rivers that move in majesty, and complaining brooks that make the meadows green, and poured round all old ocean's gray and melancholy waste, are but the solemn decorations all of the great tomb of man. So earth is the great tomb of man, and all those things, all the beauty of it is just the decorations for one great tomb. The golden sun. The planets, all the infinite host of heaven are shining on the sad abodes of death. Through the still lapse of ages, all that tread the globe are but a handful to the tribes that slumber in its bosom. Now, I believe that was true when he wrote this, but it's no longer true, saying that there are more people alive now than there are that have ever lived. I don't know, somebody Google it for me and see. But I mean, there's 7 billion people on the earth right now, and that's too many, right? But okay, so all that tread the globe are but a handful to the tribes that slumber in its bosom. Take the wings of morning and the Barcan desert pierce, or lose thyself in the continuous woods where rolls the Oregon, that's the Oregon River, and hears no sound saves his own dashings yet. So he says, go out and find the most secluded place you can, the place where no human being has ever stepped foot. Yet the dead are there. They are beneath your feet. They are there. And millions in those solitudes. Yet another paradox. And you have to ask yourself, how does a paradox inform the meaning of the poem? Well, it's kind of a paradox to think of the overall meaning of the poem is kind of a paradox. Very accurate as far as philosophy goes, but a paradox, and you say, why should I mean, death is scary. Why are you not telling me, why are you telling me not to care about death? Since the first flight of years began, have laid them down in their sleep. The dead reign there alone. Another paradox. How can you reign alone? How can a plural body reign there alone? It's beautiful, right? So shalt thou rest. And this is it. We're all, some people are, see, now I just wanted to save the world. I don't care if my name is remembered, but some people get really interested in being remembered. They want to be remembered. They want to do something in this life so that their name carries on. Almost every epic poetry, every epic poem is about that. Some hero wanting to get into the songs, right? But he says, what of it? What of it? Let's see, where was that? And so what of it if you shall die unnoticed by the living, if you should fall and no friend take note of thy departure? So what if your name is forgotten? And Wordsworth said this. He said, my name is like written on water. It will be erased he was wrong. But anyway, what if nobody sees you die? No one cares. No one is there to be with you. What if you're alone? What if your name is not remembered? So what? So what? Doesn't matter. All that breathe will share thy destiny. This whole thing that's going on, this incredible seething energy of life that's going on around us all the time. The gay will laugh when thou art gone. The solemn brood of care plod on. The solemn brood of care. Everyone, every day, I gotta wake up and go to work. I'm gonna, oh God, they drive, drink your coffee, and then you just really care a lot about what your family's doing, if they're healthy, if they're all those concerns that we have as human beings. All that'll be here. It'll be here when you're gone. The solemn brood of care will go with solemn brood of care will plod on, and each one as before will chase his favorite phantom. Definitely my favorite line. What are you chasing? My first novel is named What Gods Would Be Theirs. And that's it. What phantom are you chasing through life? Like, what do you bow down to? What is your passion? Maybe you're to be a dancer, and that's just really important to you, Maybe you're chasing money. Maybe you're chasing love, happiness. And each one, as before, will chase his favorite phantom. Yet all these shall leave their mirth and their employments behind. Like, none of that matters. You've seen the bumper sticker, he who dies with the most toys still wins. I think that's what it is. She who dies with the most toys dies. Right? The mortality rate's 100%, just 100%. And we're all headed there. So he says, everyone will share that same faith. They'll leave their jobs and their happiness and their fair forms and everything behind and come make their bed with you. The long train of ages glides away, the sons of men, the youth and life's green spring, and he who goes the full, like young people, old people, women, men, bowed over with age, infants, and the beauty of innocent age cut off, shall one by one be gathered to your side to come make their bed with you. And then after them, they will come make their bed with you. And that's the end of the voice of nature. And then the poet says, so live. Quit worrying about stupid stuff. Quit going to have lunch with people you hate. Quit working a job that you don't like. Quit wasting your time, because you don't have enough seconds left in your life to waste one more moment. So live, that when thy summons comes to the innumerable caravan that moves to the pale realms of shade, where each shall take his chamber in the silent halls of death, thou go not like the quarry slave at night, scourged to his dungeon. You can think of the quarry slave, just, and there's another point where, Yeah, it's horrible. Don't go like, oh, this is such a terrible thing. I'm gonna die. All that. No, 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 no. Don't go like a quarry slave scourged to his dungeon, but be sustained and soothed by an unfaltering trust. Approach thy grave like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dreams. Yeah, life is a casting off. It's just an endless series of deaths. I mean, it'll start with your grandparents, move to your parents. You'll all have friends that die. A lot of them die from fentanyl, damn it. Don't take that crap. You don't need, I mean, just that's another thing we didn't have when I was a kid. But life is just an endless series of death until it's your turn. There's always, I mean, every 5-10 years, somebody's going to die. It's just awful, but it's part of life. And there's a beautiful line in The Great Gatsby. Beautiful line. He says, this is Meyer Wolfsheim, who says, let us learn to show our appreciation for a man while he's alive, rather than after he's dead. And that just means don't go to somebody's funeral and show your appreciation. Man, do something with them while they're alive. Go have lunch if you like. Do you feel any better about death? Okay, so I'm 47 years old. 50 years ago, I didn't exist. It didn't bother me then. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, I've never one day in my life woke up and said, damn, I wasn't alive 50 years ago. Wow. But maybe that's what it'll be like later. It won't bother you then either. And that's another thing, is we don't have enough, in America, we don't have enough honorary rituals and rites for the dead. I mean, you maybe one time at the funeral, but then after that, they're just kind of gone, right? Other cultures, not so much, right? Okay, so I want you to remember that poem. That's one of the big ones. How about formally? It's enjambed, meaning the lines don't come to a grammatical conclusion or a cognitive conclusion at the end. They roll to the next line. And it helps, that enjambment in this case helps to make it kind of flow more naturally with this grace, kind of like the voice of nature that he's trying to emulate. And it is written in pentameter, to him who in the love of nature holds. Iambic pentameter, but it's not sing-song. I mean, it has a very flowing kind of rhythm to it. And I think that is part of what Bryant was trying to do when he was trying to create an American voice. This is part of it.